We are getting you set for the 2017 college football season here on Mark Rogers TV, breaking down the positions team by team. We head out to the Pac-12 with Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles to talk some USC football, as we always do each and every week with Nick. What's going on today, Nick?
Oh, not much, Mark. Thanks for having me on. It's we're in the doldrums of the off season. We're just waiting for player run workouts here in coming up in midsummer. Got about another month or so before that happens. But things are starting to take shape after spring practice. At QB for USC, there's really not a lot of drama at that position. Obviously, Sam Darnold's going to be, barring some horrible set of circumstances, Darnold's obviously going to be the starter coming into that role. My only concerns with Darnold is the hype is already sky high for him, and the expectations are sky high. That's a lot of pressure to put on a kid who's very young, still only entering his second season as a starter. First full season, really. He didn't even take over till third or fourth game last year. So the best, honestly, he could do is live up to expectations, because they're already talking Heisman frontrunner. They're already talking maybe he can lead him to playoff contention. So realistically, the best he can do is live up to expectations, and that's hard to do for anyone, certainly a college kid. But by all accounts, he's shown improvement in practice. He's got a whole slew of new wide receivers that he's in spring got used to working with. So it should be good, but again, a lot of pressure, a lot of hype. It's going to be difficult to live up to. And then, really just staying healthy. He hasn't really showed any injury problems in the past. But we've seen time and time again, one bad play, one errant hit, and guys go down. But he should be fine, should have a great year. But if for whatever reason he's not on the field, USC's got a couple of talented options behind him. Probably going to come in as the backup is going to be redshirt freshman Matt Fink. He was only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. A lot of that had to do with the fact that the recruiting services really weren't aware of him. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's shown tremendous progress from when he came in as a true freshman. He's incredibly fast. He's got a powerful arm, but he hasn't shown that he's the greatest thrower and decision maker as a quarterback. But Helton praised him during the spring game about how far he's progressed. The only reason why he wasn't the number 2 quarterback last year after Max Brown was taken out was because they want to preserve the red shirt. So he should come in as the second string guy. Now there's also freshman Jack Sears, very highly touted 4-star recruit. He was an early enrollee. He just started back in January. He's very good. He's from the same high school as Sam Darnold, and he was the 4th best pro-style QB coming out of high school in the entire nation. So hyper talented. The thing is, though, it's going to be very tempting to try to redshirt him. But if USC doesn't want to do that, or he just shows a tremendous amount of progress, he could come in at the number 2 over Sears, over Fink. And then the sort of break glass in case of emergency quarterback is Jalen Green. Now, if Jalen Green has seen any significant snaps at quarterback this season, things have come way off the rails for USC in just probably one of the worst ways imaginable. Jalen Green initially came in as a quarterback, just did not really get to break into the rotation, did not see a lot of playing times. It just wasn't going to happen for him. So he got switched to wide receiver. Now he's been used at wide receiver at times for sort of double passes or trick plays. They throw the out to him, and then he'd throw it downfield. So he's more of a wide receiver. He's going to be spend most of his time there. Last year, Green was the number 2 guy behind Darnold because, like I said, they didn't want to burn Fink's red shirt. Now that that's no longer a question, the best case scenario is Jalen Green's going to be your QB3. And that's if Jack Sears gets redshirted. If Jack Sears doesn't get redshirted, Jalen Green might not even be on the QB depth chart. So, they have a lot of options at QB if Darnold can't, for whatever reason, go. And by for whatever reason, I mean he's suspended for something or he is horribly injured and he's out for the year. But by all accounts, Darnold's the guy. He's going to be running the show, and that should be enough for USC to succeed on offense, but it's going to depend on his line and a lot of other factors. But if Darnold isn't there, USC will not be terribly hurting at quarterback. That's for sure.
Based on the Darnold performance last year and what we expect to see out of Sears, who, like you say, number 4 rated pro-style quarterback, it appears as though Fink is kind of sandwiched between two legacies, the one that's already been established to a certain extent and the one that we would expect out of Sears. But I hear a lot of good things in spring camp from Fink and from the coaches, as you mentioned, about his ability and about his mindset and approach at this point, that he's now comfortable with the offense. He had that redshirt year to get comfortable, and he's just kind of a different guy this year now that he knows the offense. He grasps it. He's got command of it. He knows what's going on. He knows what the situation is with the two highly touted guys surrounding him, but he says he's having fun. He's comfortable now. T. Martin says he's a winner. He's a gamer. He's a guy that's very competitive and doesn't necessarily just default to, okay, I'm the backup guy and that's going to be my stint at USC. He knows he's a play away, and he wants to come in and compete. For as ridiculous as that sounds, that he feels that he can compete, and he wants to show that I can play big time quarterback in the Pac-12.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Darnold last year during the quarterback competition between Brown and Darnold, competition was really good for Darnold. I think that competition drove him. It drove him towards improvement. He really came out and did the same thing to Brown. If you'll recall, Mark, we were ready to coronate Brown as the Pope of the USC quarterback position. Basically, the second Cody Kessler was done playing at USC, we were like, all right, Brown's the next guy in. And Darnold came out and said, well, now hang on. And then the more Clay Helton acknowledged there even was a competition, the better Darnold seemed to do. And he just sort of overtook. And I'm not saying Matt Fink's going to do the same thing. I'm not predicting that at all. But I am saying Matt Fink's attitude of, I'm going to come in and I'm going to compete for this job. I might not get it, but I'm going to make a heck of a run. That could really push Darnold to be even better, which is a little bit scary of a thought if you're not a USC fan. It's an awesome thought if you are. So that, I think, is helpful. And while we're on the topic of QB competitions, and I don't want to jump too far down the road here on you, but if all goes according to a plan, which is, never something you should do in college football, but a lot of people are saying this is it for Darnold. It's his last year. He's going to go pro. All the draft experts already have him at the top of the draft board. I'm going to be very interested to see the QB competition between Jack Sears and Matt Fink, because those two guys are both very young, both very talented and hyper competitive. So, USC has a tradition of everybody's competing for their job. Yes, it's highly likely that Darnold's going to be the guy for as long as he wants to be. But I think that competition is going to drive Darnold to get better. And so I think that's an exciting thing. But Matt Fink's there. He's going to have to improve because Jack Sears is right behind him on that depth chart. And if he wants to see time as a starter, he's going to have to really make his opportunities count this year.
We are breaking down every position for the USC Trojans with Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles, and we start at quarterback, and we start with one of the very best in college football. It seems to be a cut and dry conversation, but as Nick just pointed out, intrigue could be right around the corner heading into 2018. And it's always just, unfortunately, one play away possibly from being the backup quarterbacks, the afterthought, to this guy's the most important guy on the team, and he needs to perform because this team is talented enough, even without Darnold. I know it sounds ridiculous that they could be still competitive to win a Pac-12 championship even without him. We don't want to see that, but things happen in college football. Josh Rosen right across town last year after 5 games out.
Yep.
All
Very
right,
true.
Nick, we appreciate the time, man.
Of course, Mark, anytime.